So another useful tool we have, and again, works for all triangles, is the law of cosine. Sorry about that. Works for any triangle. So this one has a little bit more algebra involved, and you have to be really, really careful with your order of operations. But sometimes we have to use this because we don't have the right combination of opposite angles and sides to use the law of sines. Frankly, yes, we always want to use the law of sines when we can, but sometimes we don't know the right combinations and so we can't. So again, just to be really clear, I don't like to think about the law of cosines in this order. I like to think about it as c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared minus 2ab cosine c. Now, it's just written backwards, but here's why I like this. If you start with side c, you end with the cosine of c. It's like bookending, sandwiching everything in between. And when I look at my picture, it reminds me the side and the angle opposite it. Now, the first part of this looks very much like the Pythagorean theorem. Then the rest of this is kind of like a correction, because remember, the Pythagorean theorem only works for right triangles. So I have to make a little adjustment to make it work for non-right triangles. So we're always going to be really careful about how we do this. So here we go. Side EF. Side EF is little d. So that is this and this. So we are going to start with the side d squared is equal to the other two sides squared and added minus 2 times those sides times the cosine of the angle. And again, notice I started with the side and its angle. So being very careful with our algebra, we are going to have d squared is equal to 36 plus 49 minus 84 cosine 60. And this is where kids make a mistake and they try to put these three numbers together. But this one is being multiplied and you have to do multiplication before you can do addition or subtraction. So these have to go together, these have to go together, then you subtract them. And so what we have is d squared is equal to 85 minus 84 cosine 60. Again, kids will try to do the subtraction, but remember this operation, PEMDAS, you have to multiply first. And so we have d squared is equal to 85 minus 42. Cosine of 60 is 1/2. So, but go to your calculator, cosine of 60 times 84. So d squared is equal to 43. At this point, when we take the square root of both sides, we do not have to consider the negative because this is a side length, and d is approximately 6.6. So this is useful for finding a side length, and we can also find angles with it. But if you go back here and you think about wanting to find side D, I don't have enough information to try to do the law of sines. And that's why I have to use the law of cosines. I'm missing too much information. In this next example, I want angle X. And so I'm physically going to go here and I'm going to circle X and I'm going to figure out its side opposite because that is my starting and ending pairs. So I start with 5.39 squared is equal to the other two sides, 5 squared plus 7.6 squared minus 2 times 5 times 7.6 times the cosine of x, what I don't know. Again, be very, very careful with your order of operations. These two need to get squared and added, then subtracted before I divide that away. Be very careful with that negative. So I'll run through some more steps here. So I have 29.05 is equal to 57.76 plus 25 minus 76 cosine of x. Add those two. 29.05 is equal to 82.76 minus 76 cosine of x. So order of operations, this is multiplying. Add or subtract away first. So I'm going to subtract 82.76 from both sides. I have negative 53.71 is equal to negative 76 cosine of x. Undo by dividing. Don't drop that negative. Remember, cosine and sine values are always less than 1. So if you do this division and you are greater than 1, you did something wrong. And so I end up with 0.707 is equal to the cosine of x. Go to your calculator. I'm just going to demo it for practice. And so at that point, I'll just back up. I had 53.71 divided by 76. And that's that 7 point, but I want to use as many decimal places as possible. I don't want to use a rounded answer. Inverse cosine, and I end up with 45.03. Close enough. X is 45 degrees. So that is how we apply the law of cosines. So at the end of this video, I'm going to run through some mixed examples and talk about how to use each of the different kinds and how you know when to use which of the laws. Tune in for the last part.